When a fighter boasts an astonishing 92% knockout ratio, including 8 first-round finishes, an undefeated UFC record, and is coming off a KO of the Year candidate, there's no doubt he's destined for greatness in the big league.
Big knee. Down goes Maurício. I thought Beltran might have stopped that.
Armed with decapitating spinning kicks and sniper-precise boxing that rattles opponents the instant it lands, Maurício Ruffy is arguably the most decorated and deadly striker in the UFC's lightweight division. Without further ado, let's take a look at how this fighting nerd has been toying with his opponents' lives inside the cage, earning both a feared reputation and the nickname One Shot. Maurício Ruffy's martial arts journey began early, forged in the fires of kickboxing that shaped his formative years. While his uncle stoked the flames of his fighting spirit, his parents wished he'd trade the cage for a quieter, safer life. But Ruffy was not built for quiet. He was built for combat. That path took him across the world, landing him in Taiwan as a bodyguard for a Chinese billionaire. A role that came with its own challenges, from cultural isolation to a language barrier that only sharpened his hunger to fight. Deep down, he knew his heart belonged in the cage, not behind a suit and earpiece. When he finally returned to Brazil, he came back transformed, stronger, sharper, and carrying the lessons of every mile traveled. The striking maestro made his MMA debut on September 18, 2016, with the unlucky soul standing across from him being Marlon Paula de Souza. Maurício introduced himself to the fight world with a nuclear-charged right hand that had his opponent stumbling like a groggy bear fresh out of hibernation. Without missing a beat, Ruffy followed him to the deck, hammering in a couple of nails for good measure until the referee had no choice but to step in, as his foe tapped out to strikes. Hungry to replicate the fireworks from his debut, the heavy-hitting Brazilian wasted no time in accepting his next challenge, a showdown with Wenson Santos. From the opening bell, it was clear the veteran was outgunned. Ruffy uncorked a Crow Cop-style high kick that had his adversary instantly diving for legs. He pounced on the opportunity with ground and pound from the top, then allowed the action to spill back into the open field. The Brazilian tightened the noose in the striking exchanges, ruling the stand-up game like a tyrant guarding his throne. The weathered Santos was losing his fight against gravity, and soon enough, he collapsed under the pressure, meeting a dead end on the canvas. The following year, Maurício Ruffy was paired against another countryman, Lucas Costa Jesus. This time, the striker shifted gears and brought his ground and pound A-game. Ruffy rained down bombs on his foe's head like the Germans in the Battle of Stalingrad, leaving him dazed, battered, and semi-conscious on the floor. Determined to close 2018 with another violent statement, the Brazilian powerhouse locked horns with Rafael Silva. Maurício opened hostilities with a thudding low kick. Silva rushed in, eager to smother the striking, but Ruffy manhandled him to the mat as casually as if he were rolling out a carpet. From there, he worked patiently from top control, and when Silva attempted to scramble free, Ruffy muscled him right back down. The way he ragdolled his opponent around the cage would have made even a Dagestani wrestler nod in approval. When they returned to their feet, the two traded dynamite in the pocket. Ruffy's signature spinning kick narrowly missed decapitating Silva, but the Brazilian kept pressing forward like a battlefield general, leading an unrelenting assault. In the dying seconds of the round, he went airborne with a flying knee, but the bell swooped in to spare Silva from further punishment. Silva came out with more resistance in round 2, but he couldn't match Ruffy's tempo. After a few crisp exchanges, Maurício closed the show with surgical precision, a liver shot that froze Silva in place, followed by a right hand to the head to seal the deal. On June 22, 2019, the heavy-hitting Brazilian found himself on the cusp of local glory, fighting for the MFC Super Lightweight Championship against Derlin Marinho. The bout didn't need a long, drawn-out narrative. Maurício Ruffy stayed patient, reading Marinho's every move like an open book before uncorking a textbook boxing combination that short-circuited his opponent's senses. In the blink of an eye, the fight was over, and the belt was his. 5 months later, the newly crowned champion was matched against another unbeaten prospect, Manuel Souza. From the moment the bell rang, the cage turned into a war zone. Souza came forward with reckless intent, pushing Ruffy back into a corner and swinging for the fences with looping haymakers. But the Brazilian answered with a cold, surgical, intercepting right hand that stopped him in his tracks. That one shot was all it took to ignite an all-out brawl. Souza doubled down on his promise to bring big cannon energy, charging straight into a slugfest that had both men testing the durability of each other's chins. In a wild twist, Souza clipped Ruffy and dropped him momentarily, sending shockwaves through the crowd. The second round brought a shift in tactics, with Souza pressing the clinch game. Yet Ruffy, showing his grappling chops, reversed him with the kind of control that would make Caro Parisian raise an eyebrow. But in a cruel turn of fate, Mauricio's guard slipped at the wrong moment. Lady Luck was a hooker that night and Ruffy's pockets were empty. The slugfest ended with Ruffy suffering the first professional loss of his career, a blemish that to this day remains the only one on his record. Eager to shake off the sting of defeat, Ruffy was poised for a quick return, but the world had other plans. The pandemic hit and he was sidelined for more than 2 years. Finally, on June 26, 2022, he stepped back into the cage to face Breno Gonçalves. There was no feeling out process. Fueled by 2 years of frustration, Ruffy uncorked a one-hitter quitter that detonated on contact. Breno's lights went out instantly. No follow-up required. Fast forward to May 26, 2023, and Mauricio entered the one-night Centurion FC welterweight tournament. In the semifinal, he faced Corneliu Lascar. From the start, Ruffy invested heavily in his spinning kicks from hell, testing his opponent's chin and conditioning. But Lascar absorbed the punishment like a sponge, soaking up every blow. Moments later, Ruffy reminded him why standing in the pocket with him is a dangerous game. An atomic right hand sent Lascar tumbling to the canvas. And though the Romanian fought to survive, the Brazilian's relentless barrage closed the show in round 1. In the tournament final, Ruffy squared off against a seasoned warrior, Ronis Torres, a UFC veteran with over 50 professional bouts on his resume. The fight erupted instantly. Both men met in the middle, exchanging bombs without hesitation, the crowd roaring at every collision. But the high-paced start drained the veteran's gas tank. Seizing the moment, Mauricio unleashed a brutal uppercut that snapped Torres' head back, followed by a savage flurry that erased any chance of a comeback. With the Centurion FC tournament trophy in hand, Ruffy had punched his ticket to Dana White's Contender Series, where a UFC contract awaited if he could overcome the formidable Raymond Magomedaliev. The Russian entered with a 10-1 record and fresh wins over Anthony Njokuani and Impa Kasanganay, his reputation built on power and resilience. But this time he was dealing with a different kind of predator. Ruffy flipped the script, using his grappling to reverse the Russian and secure a dominant back mount. From there, he rained down, punishing ground and pound, each strike pushing him closer to the dream he'd been chasing for years. The referee had seen enough, and Mauricio Ruffy had earned his place among the UFC ranks. Mauricio Ruffy made his long-awaited UFC debut on May 4, 2024, stepping under the brightest lights of his career. He was welcomed by Jamie Mullarkey, a seasoned BJJ black belt with a gritty reputation and a resume that included a win over Michael Johnson. The first round was a tense chess match of range and timing, but in the closing minute, Ruffy showed why his hands carry the weight of hammers. He detonated a big right hand that sent a shockwave through the Australian, then immediately followed it up with a perfectly timed knee to the chin. Mullarkey staggered and the Brazilian pounced, unleashing a barrage of right hands to the head until the referee had no choice but to intervene. It was a flawless debut, a statement that echoed through the division, and it earned Ruffy his first Performance of the Night bonus. For the young Brazilian, this was just the opening act of what promised to be a highlight reel career. So far, the only man tough enough to endure Ruffy's full arsenal and hear the final horn has been James Yontop. Yet, even in that fight, Mauricio turned the cage into his personal workshop, putting on a masterclass in precision striking. The decision was a formality. The judges had an easy night. But if there's one performance that truly etched Ruffy's name into UFC lore, it was his showdown with Bobby Green, a crafty veteran boasting wins over James Krause, Josh Thompson, Al Iaquinta, and Tony Ferguson. This was no drawn-out war. From the opening exchange, Ruffy was a predator on the hunt, and at just 35 seconds in, the Fighting Nerds member executed a finish so brutal, so final, it felt like a video game fatality. Green collapsed, the crowd erupted, and the commentary team could barely find the words. Calling it the performance of the night feels almost inadequate. For many fans and pundits, this wasn't just a knockout. It was the knockout, a strike destined to be replayed for years, and a frontrunner for Knockout of the Year. Maurício Ruffy unleashes spinning attacks that look ripped straight from a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and he carries the kind of fight-ending power that can flip a bout on its head in an instant. Sharpening his tools alongside Elite Company, wrestling drills with Caio Borralho, all-out sparring wars with Gene Silva, and striking chess matches with Carlos Prates, has molded him into a well-rounded threat capable of standing toe-to-toe with anyone in the division. But the burning question remains, does he have what it takes to trade leather with the division's elite? Names like Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan. If he can march through Benoit Saint-Denis next, it will be a loud and clear statement that Ruffy not only has the drive, but the skill to scale the championship mountain without blinking. At just 29, he's entering the sweet spot of his fighting prime, the years where power, experience, and hunger align. Every fight is another step forward, and with each step, the title picture looms larger. When that championship opportunity finally comes knocking, Maurício Ruffy won't just answer the door, he'll kick it clean off the hinges. If you enjoyed the video, front kick that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the Dialed In MMA Club today.